All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the December 14th live stream. Um, for this week, I initially was going to talk about, uh, objective and subjective morality. And it was coming from Jim Edith. However, I decided to change the topic at the last minute because there's just been this ongoing discussion about him just not making the contingency argument. Oh, hi, Miranda.
Hey,
So
Miranda.
I changed the topic to talk about his contingency
Miranda.
argument. We'll go through what's really the Leibniz version of the contingency argument, because I assume that's what he means. He refuses to actually make the argument itself, but we can't wait for him to make the argument. So we're going to go ahead and just discuss the argument as is, as Leibniz has presented it. And hope, I'm not sure if there's anyone going to be joining us, any of the theists, as I changed my channel name to Theist Tap Out. They are doing their best to keep my channel name relevant by tapping out. So, so
they were free to begin with.
Yeah. So we'll get the show started. And I'll introduce everyone here. Oh, actually, I need to update the intros and outros to with the new YouTube handle. But on the stage, I have here with me Stefan, John Clark, Blarg,
Howdy.
and Ook. Hey, guys.
G'day.
How you gotta do it tonight?
Yellow.
So we were just talking about Ook, and he was out for, what's it, a couple weeks, Ook?
About 4 days. Couldn't speak.
Oh, well, you weren't. You didn't join us last time. I'm not sure if you joined us the time before.
Yeah, he was here.
I'm sure she who must be obeyed was just so horrified by not having to listen to you, Ook.
I don't think it made much difference, actually.
Well played, sir. Well played.
She's here.
I got no.
Yeah, good luck with that, buddy.
It was bloody horrible. I didn't have a sore throat or anything. I just woke up and went,
oh,
right, forget about this.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to hear about this contingency. Is it a special version of the contingency of the argument?
Well, it's a special version of the cosmological argument that Leibniz brings up. So we can kind of talk about the cosmological argument and how it differs, and how Leibniz's version differs from the other cosmological arguments. But let me first start by going through a bit of a history. So we know that J. Edith, and in the comments, I just go ahead and call him an idiot. But all he does is just name arguments, and this is same with the Monkey Boy as well. And since I mentioned the Monkey Boy,
laugh a while you can, the Monkey Boy.
So they both just list the names of arguments, or in the case of the Monkey Boy, he'll just name drop, like Goethe or Hegel or something, and think that that's enough of an argument. And I've continually challenged the idiot to actually make the argument, because just saying contingency argument is not sufficient. And in fact, I think one of the commenters tried to make the argument for him, and Edith just, said, no, you're wrong. That's not what the contingency argument is. And he continues to not make the argument. And so I started numbering or keeping count of how many threads where he just kind of runs away from making the argument. And the latest, I'm at 27 so far, and I'm sure 100
That's
fairly.
gonna grow.
Well, that number's going to get real high real quick. Remember, I'm up to about 50 times when I've given the epic shopping list that is his unbroken chain of lies and unproven claims. That he, anytime that he says, point out one lie, I have that ready to go. I've done that about 50 times, and that's just when I started counting.
He also once made the claim that slavery was good because there didn't exist any sort of financing at the time. So that was the only thing that you could have. There wasn't financing, there wasn't banking, there wasn't money. And you go, And then tries to pretend he didn't make such a claim.
Well, and I think that's the reason why the idiot doesn't make the argument, because as soon as he makes the argument, then, you can sort of start, arguing against it. And he's actually going to have to support the argument that he makes, because part of the argument is, kind of claims and premises that come from the argument. And he's not ready to actually support those. So in a way, it's kind of doing it as a protective way, I think.
I think it's all part of their cunning new plan to make claims that no one has ever made and then demand evidence.
Yeah, and
I don't even
kind of
bother engaging with him.
Yeah, and so and because they don't engage, or they don't engage, and then they claim that I lost the argument, right? They say, oh, you lost the contingency argument, an argument that he hasn't even made or even tried to support. So, looks like Vertigo was able to make it. Welcome, Vertigo.
Hey, Vertigo.
Oh, finally, yeah, finally made it, huh, buddy?
And welcome to Jason as well. And then the other thing that the idiot does is that then he just basically deflects and says that I'm justifying child rape. And the reason why he claims I'm justifying child rape is coming from the whole, I think, the morality argument, objective morality and all that, where I point out that he doesn't have objective morality. What he has is subjectivism. And that's what I was going to discuss for this week, and we can just save it for next week. But because I pointed out that he doesn't have objective morality in order to even be able to explain how child rape is immoral in his view. So just because I point out his inability to make that argument, he somehow takes that to mean that I am justifying child rape. And that's how he gets to use that to deflect from actually making the contingency argument. And he does that very consistently.
The funny thing is, I can't think of anything in the Bible that actually says don't do it.
Yep.
But I can think of quite a number of places where it says you can take the children for yourself. And then there's also the, if you see someone you're attracted to in a field, and you go and rape them, and someone spots you, then you can just pay basically a dowry to the dad, and then you get to keep them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's still exists in Islam today, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Miranda says, divine command theory isn't any kind of morality, let alone objective. So that's what we were going to discuss, but we'll touch on it a little bit. Basically what I was going to say is that within Jim Edith's divine command theory, I presume he has a very simplistic view of it, which is basically that, whatever God commands is moral. And he's going to say that God would not command any of those immoral things. When in fact, within the Bible, we do see God command a lot of immoral things, commanding war crimes, rapes, and massacres, etc., and himself committing an immoral planetary genocide.
Not to mention the fact and I pointed this out to him several times, and I mentioned it here. Their Christ character was conceived without the explicit consent. So,
yep,
that's true.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I get from that the divine command theory to subjectivism is that these guys basically, appeal to the Bible to say that's how they know what God wants, right? So their moral principles come from their interpretation of the Bible. So it's basically their subjective interpretation, meaning they can just say that my interpretation of the Bible is X. So that's how Jim Edith, if he were to ever commit child rape, he could say that it's moral. He could say that, well, according to the Bible, God commanded me to do it. And not even according to the Bible, they could just claim that they heard God command him to do it. And that's why they did it. Right. And that's where I, say that he has just pure subjectivism. He can just say whatever he wants is moral because God commanded him.
Now, has anybody gotten any kind of a definition from him about what he means by objective moral duty?
No. No.
Because that's a phrase. Go ahead.
I mean, no one. I don't think anyone in the comments, not just in Edith, but the Monkey Boy or Apod or any of those guys. I haven't seen anyone smart enough in the comments, at least in the Atheist Experience comments, to actually make a coherent argument.
Yeah, because he keeps using the phrase objective morals and duties. And I've yet to have him explain what he means by that. But he'll claim that he already has.
Yep.
I was like, cool. Where? When?
and that's their constant response. Yeah, no, I don't need to make that argument because I've already made it.
Yeah. Where did you make it again? I haven't seen it.
And these guys hate to repeat themselves, right? They would never repost the same thing over and over.
Plus, and let's be fair, copy and paste is hard.
Yeah.
What a
takes way too much time.
Yeah. So going back to the contingency argument. So the reason why, I'm going to assume that they mean the Leibniz one is because what the Monkey Boy had said, right? He seems to love being a white knight for these guys. So he came and said, what does he say? He mentioned Leibniz somewhere. Okay. Yeah. So according to the Monkey Boy, Edith is right that Leibniz's contingency argument necessitates a necessary being with intent. And he claims it's an excellent proof for God. And so if that is what the contingency argument that he means, that the idiot means, then we can at least discuss that, have that discussion. So that's the discussion we'll have here. One thing I'll mention is for the Monkey Boy, he seems like he doesn't know what tap out means. And the fact that I'm continually being in the comments and the fact that I'm having these regular live streams where he's, invited to come on or challenged to come on, the fact that neither him nor J. Edith or Apod or any of those guys that are challenged, the fact that none of those guys come on here, that's what I mean by tapping out. They're tapping out of actually engaging with us.
Yeah, because I was getting to it with Jim Edith and the Monkey Boy, and I said I had enough. I'm tired of y'all just not saying anything. So I said I'm done with y'all. And old Jimmy said, "You probably tapped out." Bullshit. No, I'm not going to say that.
Oh, I guess the idiot did tell Miranda that moral duty is not the same thing as morality. Yeah, he keeps on like it, not like making comments that doesn't commit himself to any specific viewpoint. He just likes to negate.
Yeah, don't care what something isn't. Tell us what it is.
What is that?
Yeah.
You go, it isn't a banana. Oh, wonderful. Thanks for that. That didn't help at all.
I just found the original post and put it up there that he goes on about we atheists have no problem with child rape or bullshit. And yeah, basically, if you won't say all humans have basic human rights given to them by whatever, you must agree that murder is okay and you're happy with this and all that sort of stuff. And I basically said the only rights humans have are the ones that they give themselves. And then he went completely bullshit, batshit, and it was the start of his child rape and slavery and all that sort of bullshit. That's going back, I think, 2.5 years when he first made that claim I put there.
Yeah, I had a similar argument with Damonkey about this to do with the claim that where was it that he you've got inalienable rights, and you go, well, there's no such thing as an inalienable right, because every single right that you think you have can be taken away from you. There's nothing that is completely sacrosanct. Perhaps the only thing you've got that can't be taken away from you is your own thoughts. But yeah, the right to your life, the right to your freedom, all of those get taken away, or can be taken or given away. So yes, we have the rights that we give ourselves and then enforce as a community.
Yeah, it's society decides what your rights are going to be. It's just very strange.
I mean, it definitely is going to be interesting to have this discussion of morality, and there's a lot to discuss there. But let's go forward with Leibniz's contingency argument. And this is where the boring philosophy comes in.
Yay, boring philosophy.
And I was too lazy to actually, create the slides myself for this, because I did want to have something on the screen so that people can follow along. So I found this from Notre Dame on one of their courses, giving a fairly good overview of Leibniz's cosmological argument. One thing I want to say about Leibniz that it doesn't seem like either the monkey boy or the idiot seems to be aware of is what Leibniz calls this. It's kind of like a pre-programmed harmony. So his famous idea is the idea of a monad, and for him, basically everything is a monad. And even us, that even we are basically just monads, and these are just kind of like the fundamental component, kind of indivisible component that everything is made of. And the other thing about the monads is that no.
Oh, that's a force. Sorry.
Yeah. So the other thing about the monads is that they don't interact, and this is how Leibniz comes up with the solution for the mind-body duality problem. So there's really, you don't need to have this physical interaction between the mind and the body, because from Leibniz's point of view, monads are programmed by God. So monads are contingent objects, I guess you could say. These are contingent beings, and it differs from God, who isn't contingent, and this is where the cosmological argument will come in, where God is not contingent. This is a necessary being, so it's not a monad, but it's a monad of all monads. Kind of like the sort of almost like a top monad. But
So
everything,
master
all
monad.
monads, was that?
The master monad.
Yeah, the master monad. So all monads are contingent. So here's a bizarre thing, and this I think I learned about Leibniz either my first or second year in undergrad philosophy. So because they don't actually interact with each other, the idea of causality doesn't come into play, because one thing can't cause another thing physically, right? So when you hit a billiard ball, the monad for the cue ball doesn't actually hit the other balls and cause those other balls to, move in response to the hit. What Leibniz would say is that the monad for the cue ball was programmed to, from the beginning, was predetermined to move from that one position to the other position, and all the monads for the other balls were programmed by God to move in this other way, so that when we look at it, it looks like the cue ball hit the other ball and made the other balls move, but the other balls did not move because of the cue ball. They moved because they were programmed. Now, doesn't that sound crazy?
Yeah.
I also love Voltaire's absolutely brutal takedown of the concept of monads. Where's the little quote here? I just lost it. I had it here. Give us a second.
Take your time.
Oh, thanks. Voltaire. Nope,
Well,
here it
while
is.
you're doing that, go ahead.
Sorry, got it. Yeah. So Voltaire responds, can you really believe that a drop of urine is an infinity of monads, and each of these has ideas, however obscure, of the universe as a whole? Oof. An infinity of monads in a drop of piss. You just go,
How fitting.
Brutal.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, like, logically, it makes sense. It's like one way to explain your reality, that it's not one thing physically causing another thing, but that all these things are just kind of dancing this like pre-orchestrated, movement. So everything is just like basically a clockwork that God programmed from the beginning. Now, this obviously causes a problem with free will. And, that in itself is a pretty complex discussion to go into. But keep this in mind when we're talking about his cosmological argument, because, like I said, neither of those guys probably have even heard of monads. All right, so this gives a little background with Leibniz. So Leibniz is not an idiot. He's a brilliant person. He pretty much also invented calculus, so Newton kind of took credit for it. I think arguably he was the one who came up with it. But his argument for God rests on this idea of principle of sufficient reason. So his idea is that if you take, and I'll just read this, take any feature of the world, if the world could have failed to be that way, then there must be some explanation of the world, of why the world is that way. So this argument is to try to explain why we have this world and why it is that way. And the strength of this argument in comparison to the other cosmological argument is that it doesn't depend on time. It doesn't depend on causality, because for Leibniz, there's no such thing as physical causality. so if we take the other cosmological argument, the Kalam argument is the famous one. It depends on the universe having a beginning. And for Leibniz's argument, it doesn't matter whether the universe is eternal or had a beginning. His argument still stands. So that's, in that sense, it's better than the Kalam. And the other cosmological argument is the Aquinas argument, which is basically that, and for Aquinas' argument, it's about the first cause. So for him, it's about physical causation. It requires that there is this first, the uncaused cause, right? The unmoved mover. And for Leibniz, you don't need to have that, because you don't need to have that first cause. So that's where the difference is between the three types of cosmological argument, and where Leibniz is arguably better.
You do have a non-contingent thing required in there. So you mightn't have a first cause, or you mightn't have an unmoved mover, but you have an uncontingent thing. So it's kind of still the same thing, just dressed up in different language.
That's right. That is right. It is, instead of the uncaused cause, it has what's called a necessary being. So it has the same weakness of the special pleading weakness. Basically, everything is it has to have a cause, except this one thing that doesn't need to have a cause. Everything is contingent. Well, except this one thing that's not contingent, right?
And that's because reasons.
Yeah. Well, so so with Leibniz, it is, well, reasons. It's the principles that he has. This principle of sufficient reason, that any contingent fact about world must have an explanation, and that's also where the weakness is. It's kind of similar to the weakness of the Kalam argument and the Aquinas argument, that we have no idea that this is true. How do we know for sure that everything must have an explanation, right?
Unless you want to get all really quirky with your language and say that something that is unexplainable, when you say that something is unexplainable, you've then explained it as being something unexplainable.
Yeah, that's a little bit like the problem with the no TV being a channel. Not a strong one there. Strong argument. I was going to make the complaint that what exactly does an explanation mean? Because, for example, when an electron is emitted via beta radiation from a potassium nucleus, it does so without a specific causal element. So, is it explained or isn't it?
So I think what Leibniz would say is that there is an explanation. So even if we don't know the explanation, his contention is that there is, and that's
but we
where
know
how do you?
We sort of know there isn't, because
so
we know there's we know there's a potential for for it to do it. It's a little bit like, imagine a rock sitting on top of a mountain. And then just one day, without anything actually happening, it just rolls. There wasn't any breeze. There wasn't any earthquake. None of the rock didn't change shape or size. The mountain didn't change shape or size. It just decided one day it just rolled down the hill. That's essentially what we've got going on here.
But we know that in nature there were probably forces that actually moved it, right? The whole idea of
but that's what I just said. Imagine those forces aren't there. That's the issue. The potential for it to move is there, but there isn't a triggering event that made it happen. So
so don't think of it as a causation, right? Because for Leibniz, there is no causation. It's and you have to think that for that rock, what he would say is that that rock was programmed by God to move. So that is the explanation.
Well, that does sound a little bit like defining your God into existence.
There is that as well. There is,
it's an
because
I just invent an explanation that includes God.
yeah, so there's no way to falsify this, right?
Yeah.
There's no way for us to look at, a monad and be able to pull out all the programming to say that, okay, here's what it was programmed to do. But, within, at least within Leibniz's argument, there is that consistency. So let me just go back to what Miranda had put. It was programmed by God, therefore God exists. So it's a little bit more than that. For Leibniz, when he's making this argument, he's making those claims, but with the principle of sufficient reason, where what he gets to is to basically say that, since everything must have an explanation, there can only be one necessary explanation for everything, and that's what he calls God. So similar that way, but a little bit different. Let me just get into the argument so that we can kind of all see it. Okay, so here's the argument. Any contingent fact about the world must have an explanation, and that's where the principle of sufficient reason comes. And it is a contingent fact that there are contingent beings. We know that, or it's kind of like look the trees kind of argument. Look the universe. The universe exists, so there must be something that causes. So it's similar to that. We are contingent beings, and there are it's a matter of fact that there are contingent beings. And so, since there are contingent things or beings, there must be an explanation based on the principle of sufficient reason. And you can't. And I skipped over number 4, but what he says here, the fact that there are contingent things can't be explained by contingent things, is the argument of that you can't have an infinite regression. And maybe I'll. Yeah. Anyway, so it's this idea that an infinite regression is somehow bad. Now, the counter argument is that why can't you have an infinite regression? What is wrong with an infinite regression?
How did we get here?
Yes, if you have infinite time, you can have infinite regression.
Yeah,
there's nothing specifically wrong with that.
So the question or the problem that's stated with infinite regression, and I don't know that I necessarily adhere to this, is that if you have to go infinitely far back to get to the beginning process, then there's never the ability to get to the present. At least that's what they're saying is sort of the intellectual problem with an infinite regress.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. But there's a problem with their version of it, because God has an infinite number of thoughts required to get to the point where he decided to create the universe.
Oh, sure.
And
look,
you've got an infinite regression existing in the being of God. So, same problem. It doesn't solve the problem in the slightest.
Oh, yeah. No, and these are the kinds of things that back in college, when I was enjoying a great... There was some herbal assistance in some of my thinking back in college. No, what exactly is the nature of infinity? Can you get to a present if you have an infinite regression to the past?
Yeah, so
you deal with
you deal
with infinities all the time.
So when these guys talk about how Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't know.
Steve?
Uh, So when these guys talk about how God has always existed, right? That God is an eternal being. That in itself is kind of an infinite regression, because how do we know that God existed yesterday? Because he existed the day before. How do we know he existed the day before? Because he existed the day before that. And you have to go infinitely back to say that he has existed for an eternity.
Don't forget there's an escape hatch in there. God is outside of time,
Yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
means, which
Oh,
actually
yeah,
doesn't
that
have any
argument.
logical meaning, because
Right.
either God experiences all time simultaneously, which means that there is no separation between the God that didn't have a universe and the God that does have a universe, making it impossible for there to be a separation there, or for a change requires time, requires a step, or God doesn't experience time, in which case he can't achieve anything, because in 0 seconds nothing can be achieved. So yeah, it's a ridiculous escape hatch. It doesn't actually take you anywhere.
It
they
only
think it
makes
works.
sense if God is always outside of time and space. But as soon as he comes into our time and space, he is subject to, I guess, the limitations of time and space.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that in the place where God exists, what does outside of time mean? So if time is not passing, then there is no moment in which God could act. Because to act, to affect a change, requires a previous state and then a post state to exist. So that requires time. So if no time is passing where he exists, he can't do anything. And if time is passing where he exists, then you've got an infinite regress.
Yeah. So I'm accepting that outside of our time and space, he can't do anything. In order for him to do anything that's claimed, that he would have to be in our time and space. So he would be subject to our laws and our ideas of time.
And I'm just talking about up to the point where he created the universe. So that that issue about there can't have been an infinite regress of multiverses, because we'd never get the multiverse today, because of that argument. And then you're just saying, well, how did God get to the point where he made the universe now at a point which is infinitely far removed from the eternity that God has existed for? So there's yep.
I was being Christian centric.
Yeah.
Christianity centric.
Yeah,
I was thinking of
I'm sorry.
God doing stuff within our, like, making himself into Jesus kind of thing, that type of magic.
It's also the argument I beat up Apot with, because he had to agree that God existed in a space that had energy and rules and laws in which he could act. Therefore, a place like that exists without being created. Why then would the place we exist in have to have a creator? If another place can exist that doesn't have a creator but is capable of having a being that can think within it. So, it's the same problem. And, he's been trying to backpedal out of that ever since he got walloped with it.
Yeah, it's just nonsensical, and that's why you really can't have that discussion. But they still kind of insist on saying that God exists out of space and time.
Yeah, because if you leave that vague, a little bit like the idea of a kind, just leave it vague. Don't define it. Don't play with the concept. You're safe. The moment you attempt to define it or play with it, now you're stuffed.
What I don't understand it, or well, I do understand it, but it's this thing of you can't philosophize a being into existence.
Yep.
So if there is no evidence in the physical, who the fuck cares if it existed or not? There's no evidence at all that any of this supposed necessary being to have been.
What's important to remember, though, the word being doesn't mean a thinking entity. That's right, isn't it, QC?
Yeah.
Yep.
In this context, yes.
Yes.
It's
Being
just some
could
entity.
be a single, it could be a single, atom, for example, or a waveform, or just something.
Yeah, like a gold particle, if you will. Sort of argument.
Yeah, it could be some physical process, some physical force that we know nothing about. But the point is that we don't know.
Yeah, I do find the idea of them using the word being to be, disingenuous, because they're essentially arguing an active thinking creature of some sort into that argument inherently, even though they say, oh, no, that's not what we're talking about. But by calling it a being, it implies these characteristics necessarily.
It's the same thing they do. They've started to do now with it. I'm not religious. I have a relationship with God.
That's a pretty big cop-out.
It's not a religion, but you atheists are in a religion.
Yeah. I just don't understand. No one in the history of the world has ever been able to philosophize something into existence. Why do they keep clogging a dead horse?
I just think that they feel like that if they could do that, then they are more like God. Like, how should I explain this? They get this feeling that.
Point, yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one, Stephen. Yeah, keep going if you want. Keep going, mate.
No, it's just that they feel so small that they got to philosophize to the point that to make themselves feel like they are important, they got to try to philosophize to the point to prove that God exists, so they can feel like they're like God, that they can create thought, create some kind. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm sorry, but it's just basically that they basically want to feel like they're stronger. They're more important.
Actually, yeah, it's to make themselves feel, I don't know, happy that they now understand how the world works better than all these other people who don't believe in the whatever version of God.
That's probably a better way of putting it than I did. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's the thing we run up against with all humans is we want to know answers, and if we can't know the answer, we've got to make something up. I don't know why people can't be happy with, I don't know.
Yeah, and this leads to the concept God of the gaps fallacy.
Yeah.
Well, so just throwing out that God is outside of space and time is nonsensical, because it's hard. We can't even grasp that idea. Because we are beings within this, time and space. It's really hard for us to even understand what it is to be outside of that. And that's actually part of Kant's philosophy. Excuse me. That's part of how we understand reality. Time and space is part of it, but they just throw it out, even though it is outside of our. Oh man, I have a frog in my throat.
I can't talk.
So it's the same way when they try to kind of explain why God does certain things. Oh, he's so complex, we can't understand him. While at the same time, they are trying to pretend that they understand him.
Yeah. Let me explain God. You can't understand him, but let me explain him.
The
My brain
explanation is he's unexplainable.
yeah, but my brain, as soon as someone mentions outside time and space, my brain short circuits and go, I fucking don't know what that means.
Yeah,
And
what is
stop being
outside
an
time?
insufferable.
They don't either. It's just an escape hatch because they know it's difficult for anyone to argue about what that is.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was tutored by a guy who came out of the Vatican Inquisition. He was an inquisitor. He never bothered with all this sort of bollocks, philosophy and all that. It's just faith. He believed in God because he had faith. If all the philosophizing and running around to try and find evidence for whatever version of God you have, he did all that. And he said, the only reason I still believe is I have faith. And it makes me feel better.
And that's
Yeah, the
argument.
problem they've got with that, though,
sorry.
the problem they've got with that is science has come along and completely undermined God, so they have to put something on the table to help the faithful maintain that faith in the face of all the evidence that says they're wrong.
Yeah, it was the way he explained the priest who came up with the father of the Big Bang theory. The reason that the Vatican likes science so much is they can incorporate it, so they can become hip and we're with it, and we're not anti-science. You can believe in all this science, and you just have to have faith that God put a soul into people at some time, whenever, and be nice. That was his idea of why the Vatican and Catholicism has embraced science so much. And you can actually see it. They've leapt on science as piggyback to try and bolster their God claim. And that's why so many people who are Catholic want to go back to before Vatican II. They want to turn the time back to, was it Vatican II? Was it in 52 or something? I can't remember. It's gone. But yeah, they want the Bible or the Mass to be said in Latin and everything again. It's crazy. But yeah, if someone who believes in a God just says, I believe because I have faith and it makes me feel good, and they're not a dick to other people, yeah, I don't have a problem with them. It's only when they start being preachy and force their ideas.
So all the philosophy, the cosmological argument, and the idiot lists all these other things, the KCA, physical beginning, contingent existence, fine-tuning, moral ontology, etc. These are all just justifications, right? They start with their God belief, and all these other things are just ways for them to justify why it's okay for them to have this belief that can't be tested or validated or verified.
Yeah, it's really strange.
And for these guys, just saying that these things exist, that the contingency argument, KCA, that these things exist, that's good enough for them. They don't have to. They don't care that all these are debunked. They don't care that people have argued against it and pointed out all these issues with it. It doesn't matter for them. They have something. So it's not just them making things up. It's not them just believing it because it makes them feel good. They think, or they rationalize that they have an actual rational reason for having those beliefs.
Where to go with that? It's just like, I really don't know where to begin with that, because all they do is just repeat the same things. They know it's a lie, and we call them out all the time, but they just keep repeating it. And it's just,
Yeah,
like
it goes back to them not engaging. They're not listening to any of these counter arguments, and they don't even want to. They don't want to come here and have a discussion. They don't want to have to actually, even within the comments, have actual good faith back and forth.
No, because they live in a system that does not reward critical thinking, doesn't reward critical analysis. You take the presupposition at face value. You're shunned from your community if you question that. And so they have it so baked in that the circular logic that God exists because he exists. And from there, the rest of their premises are built. But whether or not Jim Edith is very clearly, to me, it's very clear that he either has been or is currently in a cult. Just because of the way that he structures the arguments, because of how he so dogmatically approaches his positions, but the fact that he's here practically every day, there's something that he's getting out of it. Either it's credibility within his community, or maybe my joke about him having a shame fetish is maybe not such a joke after all.
I wouldn't be surprised if this
I
cult
mean,
was paying him to do that.
It's truth by repetition. Doesn't actually work as an argument. But I'm sure for a lot of them, it is some sort of strange sexual fetish they get off by posting dribble all day.
I mean, that's one hell of a fetish.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's their kink, have at it. But at least get the other person's consent.
Yeah, that's
before you do it.
Yeah.
Look, there are chat lines that you can call to do that sort of thing. You don't need us.
Yeah, we're not getting paid to take care of your problems.
Yes, your masturbatory fantasies are something you can share.
But that's why although I think that there is some credibility to the idea that my little sock puppet has some sort of a shame fetish, I think that also is what lends it to the idea that he's getting some sort of external credibility for doing this. The idea that he shows up every day to post the same things over and over again, to say the abusive language over and over again. There's something that he's getting out of it, and if it's just fetishizing, then the repetitive nature of it eventually would wear out. There's no escalation. Fetishists typically need, if they engage the same way over and over again, it starts getting dull and starts losing its edge. So they have to find a way to heighten the experience. But his is
more stimulation.
So his is a lateral exchange. In other words, he's cutting and pasting the same arguments over and over again with very little change over time. So either he's satisfied with the either it is satisfying that itch, or there's something else that's making him do it. The Jehovah's Witnesses who go knocking door to door, they get tired of it. They get frustrated. They get burned out on having doors slammed in their faces. But the reason why they do it is because the people back at the church are cheering them on when they come back. Because when they come back and they talk about how many people they talked to that day, it's reinforced that they're doing the right thing. And so the door slamming in the face is defined as, getting that door slammed in your face is defined as the virtuous act because you put yourself out there. So that I do sometimes wonder, and maybe I'm giving Jim Edith a little bit more credit than he deserves, but I do sometimes wonder if maybe the reason why he goes through this all the time is because there's somebody, either an authority figure or a religious community, a cult, that is egging him on, that's pushing him on. I know that might be that's unfalsifiable until he decides to actually engage like a human being, but that's where I sometimes wonder is what's going on in the background.
Well, let me just then talk about, I'm not sure if we talked about it at the beginning or in the pre-show, but this dagger Moses. So he gives a reason for why he was on here and trolling. He's saying that he was in a bad place in his life. And we know that some of the other guys have different reasons, like who's that, Tyler, who says that he's on here to evangelize, right? And evangelizing apparently means just posting
Copy
a wall
and
of
paste.
illegible
Same-
stuff that
we
you
got- same
can't
like-
even
Great, thank you.
read. I know like a few people actually did read it. I haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no paragraph marks or anything, and
Space, comma.
yeah, and
Space,
the
comma.
space comma.
At least
So-
he's got some comments in there.
My form of dyslexia makes reading something like that in a block on YouTube. I can't. I've got to put it into a Word document and start breaking it up before
Well,
I
the
can
thing is that
actually
there's no payoff
understand it.
there's no payoff to even do that, go through that effort. If I thought that this was someone who had some insight or something interesting to say, yeah, maybe I would do that. But oh my God, I'm not going to make any effort to read this because I know that there's nothing at the end.
Well,
Hey, Ook.
every
Probably drive you crazy.
every one of his posts is
Oh,
just,
actually, it worked. It made Miranda a believer, so I
Yeah.
guess.
every one of his
Hey,
posts is
See, that's
exactly
surprising. You just did a
tone of the
possible
other.
thing.
Hey,
And
Ook.
he won't engage. I don't even know whether he's a young Earth creationist or not. You can't. It's just crazy. You can't have a chat with someone who just spams back gibberish. It's really strange. Hi, Tilting. He's back.
Hey, Ook, got a question.
Bill,
So you're dyslexic. Do you also suffer from insomnia?
yes.
Do you lie awake at night wondering if there really is a dog?
Oh, oh,
Love it.
I
Love it.
lie awake thinking.
You're welcome.
I lie awake thinking, would it be really? What is the most humane way to bait a dog? And I mean, I've never had those thoughts before in my life, but after having a husky live next door and other people around that can't control their dogs, yeah, I'm going to. Horrible thought to have, thinking of actually killing an animal, but that's what the world's come to. Oh, that's a fun little thing. Twice in, I think, under 2 months, I've gone to my local tobacconist, and I get all the makings for my smokes and whatever, the filters, paper, that sort of thing. Twice I've walked in there and pretty much had to physically, without putting hands on them, but using my walking stick, force 2 people out of the shop because they're just being dickheads, racist dickheads, because they're Asian people who own the tobacconist. And last week I went in there and I tapped the guy on the shoulder with my walking stick, moved aside, and I just went, "Get out." And he went, "But," and I just went, I thought I was so hip. It came to my mind and I went, "Do you really want to fuck around and find out?" And he just
Nice.
popped his head down and went out. And so now every time I go in there, I get a few more packets of paper or anything just thrown in for good measure. But it's
That's what's been called. No, go ahead.
It's that thing of the reason there's so many dickheads in the world is people let them get away with it.
That is true.
I've got the problem now. If it ever does get to a physical altercation, I'm going to have to, because of my back and the injuries I've had before, I'm actually going to have to go in harder than I ever have before. So I'm going to have to hurt them really so they can't get up. And I'm going to have to do that within the first 2-3 seconds. So it's sort of, I tend to be very careful of the people I try and physically intimidate. But it's that thing of, when you're trained, it's so easy to really hurt people, and you generally try not to do that. But I've decided that I've reached an age, 57 now, I think, and yes, I'm getting a nod on that one. I can't be bothered thinking about how I might hurt someone else. If it comes to a physical altercation, I'm just going to take them down. I don't think I get charged with anything. Who wants to put someone on? Yeah, someone who walks with a walking stick all the time, and interesting. But don't.
Okay, I hope the stream doesn't become some evidence that gets admitted into a court proceeding.
No.
Boy, I'm glad you're telling a funny story with a weird punchline and only speaking in hypotheticals there.
But basically the whole thing about that is, there are, don't be afraid to pull the chain of dickheads, it's, oi, don't accept that. And all the times I've done it before, other people have said, came in and supported me. So it's that thing of, let's stop letting the dickheads get away with it in real life and also online. Just report the bastards as much as you can. Oh, what happened to the fake profiles? Have they disappeared, gone, or what? The clone.
I really haven't seen much of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I think it really depends on how APOD is feeling. I think when he feels threatened, he brings them out. So,
did you get that screenshot I sent you?
I haven't had a chance to look at my other accounts. I know I forwarded you what Tuna Man had sent me. I saw that.
On your YOU account or something, it was APOC and Donkey talking about the fake clone accounts, and APOD admitted to they're all him this time.
Yeah. So when you send it to that my NES account, I don't check that very often. So
Okay, so the one to send it to you would
yeah.
be the one on this channel.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
cool.
the email I send you guys for the link.
Okay, sweet ass.
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff.
So just going back to sort of the reason why people are in the comments and responding. So for me personally, I get a little bit of entertainment out of responding to these trolls and kind of making fun of them. And so to me, it's an entertainment of a sort. What about you guys? What are your reasons for being in the comments?
So for myself, I started out genuinely wanting to hear the different arguments, the different ideas of how people come to believe in a deity. The idea of this big ethereal creature, thing, being, whatever. Is it just your thoughts, or is there something that I'm missing? Is there this great evidence that I've been told is out there? So then where is it? It comes from a genuine curiosity and a genuine wanting to have that intelligent conversation with somebody else. My brother is a conservative Catholic, and he and I have gone round and round ever since we were children. He was always the believer in the family. So wanting to talk to other people, wanting to get these other opinions. I'm in the comment section because for those that are actually trying to engage on intellectually, I want to hear what they have to say. But then for those that are going to be abusive and nasty and mean, I cannot abide a bully. And so for those that are going to go on the attack, I'm big and dumb and mean enough that I know that I can push back and make sure that they know that they can't just stomp all over and think that they can adhere to might makes right.
John,
Go ahead. Go to.
Yeah, I was just going to ask John a quick thing. Does your brother agree with the Vatican II or not? Or that's something.
He's pretty much okay with the modern Catholic Church.
Okay. At least he's progressive into
so it's about the only thing about him that is progressive. So the overall idea of so his take on homosexuality is hate the sinner, or no, hate the sin, love the sinner,
that sort of thing. And with your I've never been able to abide bullies at all ever. To me, and I sat down with a therapist a couple of decades ago and worked out the reason why is they actually frighten me. And I have a very well-developed sense of fight first, look for a flight next. I don't go straight to run away. I go straight to fight. And it's because I don't want to be scared. If someone's bullying someone, it means they're disrespecting them, and I don't want. Yeah, it short circuits the brain, and I just not putting up with that. It's one of those strange things, bullies that in group therapy, a lot of us actually got down to the thing of the reason I react so charged when I see bullying happening is a flight or fight, and bullies scare me. So I'll give them a slap in the head, that sort of stuff. That was just a weird thing.
It is what it is. But yeah, the reason why I got into the comments was like John, I was just curious. I wanted to see different perspectives. I was raised in a conservative household, and I'm no longer conservative. I'm become more of a centrist. Still physically conservative to some degree, but socially liberal. And I just wanted to see a whole different mind perspectives to see, how people think. Like, why do people get into, believing? Why people maybe what's that word they use for people transitioning out? I already forgot. Anyway, um, why do people think the way they do? Get different perspectives. And at first I thought, then when I started engaging the trolls, I didn't know who the trolls were. I was just, engaging them. Then when you get there for a while, you're like, yeah, these are not people. They're just bullies. Like, it ruins everything because I'm not here to fight jackasses. I'm here to learn. I'm here to broaden my worldview. But yet, I can't do that if you have to constantly fight off people that are going to push people away. They don't want to talk, and it ruins everything. That's why I came from. Just like John said, I want to broaden my horizons.
Your next plug.
Oakley dokley. Well, in my case,
That was good, Steve.
Thank you.
In my case, I'm a person who was never religious at any point in my life, even though I did go to a Catholic school. Anyhow, but the reality is I didn't ever sort of think of myself as an atheist. It was just not a thing. So anyhow, I discovered really what that means. I went, actually, yeah, I would use that as the correct description for myself. So I started watching a few of these, and then you start to see these people in here that just talk utter bullshit. They give garbage answers. It's terrible, and I sort of feel the sort of need to correct misinformation. So that's kind of how it started, and then in the case of the trolls, I don't know. Sometimes it makes me feel a little bad. It's a bit like shooting fish in a barrel. But yeah, they keep coming back. So yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
It does.
Well, I think it does say something about how, at least for me, my reasons have changed over time. When I first got on the atheist experience, I was just kind of curious to hear some of the different arguments, both, on both sides. And, I think since I started watching, I've kind of sharpened up my own beliefs and have obviously become more accustomed to both the apologetics and the counter apologetics. But in the comments right now, it's just so toxic, that it's really, you can't have any real discussion. And that's part of the reason I set up this channel, so that we can at least have an actual discussion of things.
And I think we appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Too bloody
one of the highlights
yeah.
of my week, man. You do a great job, Q.
I mean, as far as I can see, this is an outlet for us and for the people in the other outside. We're just talking. We're just chatting. We're not getting angry or at each other. We disagree with each other over certain things, but yeah, we basically sort of aren't dicks to each other. I just probably about 10 years ago, or a little bit longer, I started to notice that religious fundamentalism, and not just Christian, but just religious fundamentalism, was becoming a danger to the way that I perceived Australia should be and had been. So I went on to the AXP and Talkie and all that to find out what was actually happening around the world with religious fundamentalism. And for the first couple of years, it was really good because you talk to people who were deconstructing and give them like recovering from religion, secular therapy project. You could do all that, and yeah, you might have a toxic troll come in, but they were pretty rare, apart from, Dr. Moist Rock. And now it's just got to the point where religious fundamentalism is a danger to everyone's worldwide existence. And I'd just like that to stop. Remove all political power from religion. It'd be lovely. But, and that's why I stick around. I mean, I've never held any God belief or anything. And that's even with having a cousin who was a pope. And I figure if a pope thinks, oh, that's good, you're an atheist, you've taught. He actually said to my personal tutor, you've taught the boy how to think, not what to think. Maybe he'll work out and come to God later, but at least he's using his brain. If a pope can say that, why are these idiots getting so upset because we don't believe in their version of a God? And I'm
Well,
still
what's
there.
even more scary is that they're not even, trying to hide it. When you have Apod and Damonkey both saying that, we should take these gays and atheists on a helicopter ride or onto a rooftop to unalive them, that's just like, that's beyond the pale. And they're not ashamed of it. And I think what you say kind of points out to how things have changed in a fairly short number of years. And, we kind of know what part of the reason for that is. But, things that I can't imagine anyone actually writing in the comments, even a year ago are now, being repeated in the comments.
To me, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just you treat everyone, give everyone a fair go, unless they've proven that they're just total scum. And I mean, that's what the comments section in AXP has become, which is a shame. But AXP aren't going to do anything about it because, well, I'd say maybe 80% of all the comments are from a dozen or so individuals just trolling, being assholes for whatever version of God they want to believe.
And what's worse is
sad.
that kind of stuff. It also kind of it when it comes to AXP, all those trolls are kind of fueling the algorithm for YouTube, so it kind of raises their profile, and that's just a sad. I don't want to use the word irony. It's more like a sad. I can't think of a good word for it, but it's just it's crazy. Like these trolls just keep going here, and they just keep talking, and it helps the algorithm for YouTube, like I said, to boost some XP up. But like you said, it's become toxic. It's like a double-edged sword. It's just what's going on.
The most charitable way that you could look at it is that they don't want to come across as silencing voices, and so they allow all voices to speak. Arendt was talking in the comments section just now about how it's the tolerance paradox. By not having guardrails, by not having rules, you allow for the worst to just steamroll. And then there are those of us that are willing to do tit for tat and push back, which of course just creates that never-ending spiral. Now, the Steve-O, you were just saying a second ago that, yeah, I mean, it does drive up engagement. And that's part of how YouTube gauges that's a metric for success within YouTube. So that's, I don't know if they, I don't know to what extent engagement levels drive revenue, but certainly the more that there's engagement, the more likely a video is to get recommended, and that helps, that helps the channel. So no matter how you cut it, either they are making sure that they either have fallen into the tolerance paradox, or they're knowingly allowing the comments section to be this back and forth, and as a result of that back and forth, they get to stay relevant, and they're more likely to get recommended so that other people can watch.
Well, I think it's also similar to how they are willing to take calls for some of these obvious trolls,
Yeah, it's because they can make a goofy thumbnail, or they can do a clickbaity title, and again, it's that the what is it? The medium becomes the message. Because of how YouTube is structured, content creators respond accordingly.
Yeah, race to the top, so to speak.
Which is unfortunate, but at the same time, am I in the comment section pushing back? Yes, I am. So, do I have a level of responsibility for how the comment section is? To some minor extent. I don't claim to have any meaningful clout as far as what goes on in the comment section or what gets said in the comment section. But I mean, I'm still there. So every so often, it's a good idea. I think somebody made the comment of needing to take a step back once in a while for mental health reasons.
Yeah, I think Fish.
Yeah.
Also, Aaron made that point too as well.
You want to make sure that just make sure that you don't become the monster that you're trying to hunt.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and
monsters.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll continue to make this recommendation, for some of the worst ones. Just don't engage. I mean, there's no reason to respond to Damonkey Boy and expect a reasonable response. When I respond to J. Edith, I'm not expecting him to say, "Oh, you're right. I'm going to now give you my contingency argument and try to support it." I'm just marking time just to kind of show that, for each point that, he's never going to make the argument. But I think the issue is really like, even if you kind of respond to any of those comments, it sometimes becomes this back and forth of just kind of exchanging insults. And then it just becomes a thread, becomes like 100 comment thread where it's just back and forth between a troll and one of the responders, one or two of the responders. And I think that just kind of makes everything just, purposeless.
Like you're a poopy head. No, you're a poopy head. No,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's back and forth until the end of time.
I got talking about the word engage. Funny story. I was having a slight dispute with one of the neighbours a decade or so ago, and I basically said, "Look, fuck off! I don't engage with children." then he took engaged. He yelled it out about 6 times and then went, "You're a pedophile."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
me.
That-
Okay, yeah, that's we got to get out of here. The whole area is just fucking brain dead. Yeah, it's one of, at least some of the trolls on the AXP are semi-intelligent. None of them are honest. And yeah, if you want to engage with them, just take the piss out of them. Or talk about them in the third person. They seem to really hate that.
that does seem to really irritate. Let's see, definitely irritates Edith, DK, a couple of other ones that I did that with this week. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they get. It's my thread. Why aren't you talking to me? Because you're a
Yeah,
wanker.
if you want to get back at these guys, I mean that's the best way. Not engage them, just ignore them. And they do get upset. I mean, like the monkey boy is just like going crazy, continuing to like claim that you guys are, I think he calls it meat puppets or something, and he just can't seem to get it out of his head, and thinks that we're so obsessed with him that this channel was
Bukkake.
created for him and all that. So by the way, I know Saibu raised the question of that Luigi Mangione guy and the whole idea of what's happening with the healthcare. That is something I would like to get into, but since we're out of time, I'm not gonna raise it here. But I think this is something that's gonna be going on for a while, especially once the trial gets started. There's going to be just a lot of attention on it. So at some point, I would like to discuss it with you guys here, just not in this show. And yeah, maybe next week. So I'm going to then now kind of end it here, and then we can kind of plan on having that discussion next week, because I think you guys, even the non-US folks, are interested from kind of a healthcare point of view. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion to have.
All right.
Agreed?
Before we go, I do have one thing I want to say.
Yep.
Going back to how the trolls hate us if we don't respond. I got a little social experiment to try. For 1 week, from here till next Saturday, we just drop off entirely. We do not respond at all. We just sit there. We can read the comments, but we don't respond. I want to see how it gets to them.
Yeah, I'll definitely recommend not responding to any of those guys, whether it's a week or not. But yeah, let's try it at least for a week. Where I'm not saying don't make any comments, but just don't respond to any of the known trolls.
Yeah.
So comment. So I think we talked about this once before. Making a comment about them, but not commenting to them.
That's a good point.
Yep. And to respond to Flumpy Doo, yes, I do have a bachelor's in philosophy. So thank you for the question. All right, so I'll wrap it up here. And as always, thanks for everyone on the panel. And it's always great having you guys, the folks in the live chats. It always makes it a lot more interesting to let's have you guys commenting on our discussion. So that'll do it for today. And go ahead.
Let's all try and have a gay week.
Yay!
That's right.
That has
everyone
upset them.
Now our gay apparel.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That has definitely upset them, hasn't it?
Oh my God.
Yeah, we should just
All right,
have
have a good week.
music every time.
All right, have a good week. All right,
All right,
thanks
guys, have a
everyone.
good one,
And
guys.
I'll see everyone in the comments.